The one thing I recommend doing if you're ever trying to just kind of like think about ideas is something called a mind map. And there's this cool site called Miro.com. This is not sponsored, I'm just using it, where I wanted to kind of map out what are some of the things that you might need if you're trying to build out a SaaS product. And I just tried to list out as many things as possible. So be sure to leave a comment if you have something that I've missed, if you do watch through this video. So if you zoom out, you'll see I have a bunch of different services that basically outline what you may need to build a successful SaaS product. Like for example, emails. You need the ability to send out emails to various people and also have people email you. And we also have hosting, logging, and databases. So I'm going to kind of go through all of these just as a quick overview in case you want to get exposed to like some new pieces of technology. But overall, I think if you want to make a product, you're going to be needing one of these things at some point, especially as your product starts to grow. So the first thing is obviously hosting. You have to be able to host your application somewhere. So some examples that I've used on my channel, SST, it's a framework that you can use to basically deploy your next app or remix app into AWS. But of course, there's Vercel, Netlify, Fly.io. There's tons of ways to host your application, right? So if you ever wanted to make a product, hosting has a huge market share of things that you could potentially do. Okay, and those are some examples, but I pretty much always use SST for all my projects now. So going over here, we have authentication. In order to build a product, you need a way for people to log in. I have been using Clerk for a lot of my little side projects. There's also Auth0. You could roll your own auth if you want to. There's also Cognito on AWS, which is actually what I use in my project at work. So there's options out there if you don't want to roll your own authentication service and deal with all that stuff. These are some of the things you have to kind of pick before you can even start building your product. So again, over here on the right, logging. When you have something hosted somewhere, your service is going to throw errors. Users are going to hit your endpoints with bad data and potentially cause things to crash. So you really need a way to hook into all those logs and get alerted and be able to like dive in and do analytics on what's happening in your system, how long do API endpoints take to run, what errors are being thrown, etc. So the one we use at work is AWS CloudWatch. If you're using AWS, like this is the default that's baked into everything, especially if you use like serverless or Lambda. There's other ones out there like Datadog, Axios FM. But overall, if you're having a system in production, you're gonna have to have logging. There's also logging you can hook into the front end so that when your front end application throws errors, it'll forward those errors to a back end service where you can aggregate those logs together. I don't have those listed out, but you can have to go Google them. Databases. Obviously, this is a core piece of technology you're going to need to build out a SaaS product or an online product in general. You have to have a way to store data, right? I have used Postgres on this channel. I have used Dynamo before. That's what we use at work, DynamoDB. It's an AWS service. Convex is a backend as a service that we've been using for this hackathon. MySQL, Mongo, right? You have tons of options for storing your data, but make sure you kind of understand your data needs. If you have highly relational data, you're probably going to want Postgres or MySQL, or non-relational data. DynamoDB is pretty good for that in Mongo. All right, moving on over here. So emails, you have to have the ability to send out emails to your users, right? When something goes wrong in your system, let's say you have a security breach, you have to email your users and let them know. Also, you just want a way to kind of send them updates on your product. When you ship new features, it's good in terms of marketing to be able to keep reminding people to come back. So having emails, not only for authentication, but like just emails in general, it's good to be able to communicate with your users when you have their email accounts. So one way that you can send out emails is with AWS SES. It's what we use at work. You can use SendGrid, which is a paid service, Mailgun, which is a paid service. But at some point, you're going to have some type of feature in your system that needs to send out a notification to their email address to tell them, hey, their documents are ready, or hey, this processing that took 10 minutes is finally done. You got to let them know. Kind of going off of that, you have SMS. Sometimes you want to send notifications to people's phones, but this is more like you want to notify someone when something happened in your system. This is more like a feature-based. So SMS, you can use AWS SNS. You can also use Twilio, is that how you call it? There's a bunch of other services out there, but those are some examples. Now, again, all of these things, some of these are core things. For example, database, authentication, hosting, these are core things that you have to have. Logging, definitely a core thing. Email, in my opinion, is a core thing. SMS, you could get away with not having SMS at all, especially if you use like an authentication service, because it'll take care of that. Events, this is another kind of optional one. If you want to really improve your user experience, you're going to want to have live WebSocket events so people's UIs can update exactly when things finish. Otherwise, you're going to be doing some type of long polling. You're going to be doing something like interval polling or some type of server-side events. So at work, we use AWS WebSocket API, which is like built into the API gateway, or you can use a paid service like Pusher. All right, let's just keep on going through this. So file storage, this is a critical one. A lot of times you have a SaaS product where you have to upload images. So we use AWS S3 at work. It's basically just a great service from Amazon to just store a bunch of infinitely large data and you can retrieve it later. Upload thing, for example, another YouTuber, Theo, I'm sure you've heard of him. Most of my audience comes from his channel. He built a product to basically wrap S3 and store files for you, makes it a lot easier. And then there's also like Cloudinary, which I've done a video on my channel about. So you're going to have a place to store files. You don't want to be doing this on your own little like hard drive, wherever you're deciding to host your application, because your disk space is going to fill up and you just don't want to worry about that, because when you run out of disk space, you don't want to have errors thrown when people can't upload their files. So I personally use S3 for everything. Let's move back over to the right. We have payment processing. You want to be able to collect money. You can't build an online SaaS product unless you can get access to people paying for your service, right? So for payment processing, I've used Stripe, but I do believe you can hook in PayPal if you want. I hear PayPal's not as great as an API for hooking up into your services, but I've used Stripe. I like it a lot. A lot of people use Stripe. All right, documentation. So if you're building like an online SaaS product, you're going to have some type of documentation so that your users can understand how to use your product. There's some open source free documentation stuff out there. Nextra is one I just learned about. There's Doxify. Often you're going to want to draw out diagrams to kind of communicate with your users how things work, or just communicate with your team if you have a larger team than yourself. So Eraser is a product I've used on my channel quite a lot. Miro is one I'm using right now. Just a way to basically document stuff so that your users and your internal team can like actually, you can also use, GitHub with like MD files. That works too, whatever. There's tons of ways you can do this. Some more critical things. We need to have version control. I mean, this one's a given, so I don't even know why I put SV in here. Like Git is the de facto, everyone uses Git that I know of. But you're going to have to way to track your code. And then additionally, you're going to have to hook that version control up into a pipeline so you can have your code automatically deploy. Now, if you're using a good service hosting company, they're going to have a way to just hook into your repo automatically and deploy your code. Like Vercel has a way to just automatically deploy changes. I think Netlify has something, DigitalOcean has something. But if you are more advanced and you need to roll your own CI/CD pipeline, and you can do that with GitHub Actions, Circle CI, Travis CI, GoCD, I believe is one. And a lot of larger companies will do their own thing with Jenkins, which personally, I hope I never have to work with Jenkins again. There's better solutions, paid solutions out there that I much rather just pay for than have to like manage my own Jenkins box. I'm trying to hit the core services still. So like down here, we got issue tracking. You're going to run into bugs. You're going to have to like figure out what features you want to add next and prioritize them. All projects are going to be using some type of issue tracking / project management software such as Jira, GitHub Issues, or Trello. I personally would just use GitHub Issues if I'm doing like a small little one-man team. But there's other options out there for tracking your cards, moving your cards from in progress to doing to done, just so you can get like a high-level overview of the progress of your project. Communications. So this is how do you communicate with your team if you have a team. We use Slack at work. A lot of other companies use Slack. There's Discord. If you just want to use a Discord server, that works too. And then obviously for face-to-face, you can use Zoom. That's what we use at work. Definitely it's good to invest in a good communications tool, because especially if you're remote, the team I work on is all remote. So like we use Slack and Zoom a lot. We're always in a Zoom, talking together, pairing together, doing pair programming. So I think those are like the core ones. I want to kind of circle back and make sure I didn't miss any. So I put search here. I don't know. This is probably not that core. It depends on like what your service is, what your features is. But sometimes if you have tons of data, doing some type of reverse index search over that data is not going to work with your database, or it may just not perform well with your database. Or having some type of, Lucian search engine that is encompassing a smaller subset of your data, like Elasticsearch or OpenSearch, can help you find various documents that have certain keywords in them. Now that we have vector databases, like Pinecone, you can actually like store documents in a vector database and use like OpenAI encoding, or I guess they're called embeddings, to be able to do this type of search, this semantic search. So there's options out there. It depends on your use cases. This might not be something that's even important to you. Marketing. I'm guessing this is something I'm kind of like gray area in. When you build a product, It doesn't matter how great your product is. If no one knows about it, no one's going to use it, right? So marketing is this should really be one of the pivotal things of your product. Some of the things that I've done on this channel are sponsored videos. There's also like Google ads, there's like Twitter ads. I don't know how well any of those things do, Snapchat ads. Also affiliate links, like, you can try to convince people to give them a special link. And if they use the link, they get a discount, and like you throw back money towards the people who hosted the link. I don't know, all this stuff. It's out of my realm of like what works. I don't know what's going on with this app. When I type in marketing, it just loads up this thing. So I think you get the gist. You just need a way to basically like convince people to sign up for your stuff. And that's a whole nother realm of like outside of the scope of what I know. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip over that. A/B testing. So if your product gets bigger and you want to basically figure out what is a good way to know if certain landing pages work better at converting people, this marketing that I kind of talked about kind of ties into A/B testing. So you might want to create 2 different designs for your front page, your landing page, and using A/B testing software like SplitterGG, which is another YouTuber, Josh Tried Coding. He's working on a SaaS product that kind of hooks in A/B testing to Next.js. I think there's other services out there like LaunchDarkly, or you can kind of do your own custom thing. It's not too hard to do, I don't think. But you kind of want to like figure out what works best for getting people to sign up. If you just kind of blindly do stuff, it's going to be hard for you to know like what's working. Let's scroll down. So we got like 3 left. We have feedback. So as your users run into bugs, actually this is more of like a critical thing. I wish I kind of covered that earlier. When your users hit bugs, a lot of them aren't going to reach out to you. They're not going to tell you something's going wrong. But if someone's actually blocked and your service is super important and they have to get stuff done, they need a way to reach out to you and tell you, hey, I can't log in. So there's services out there. I think Canny's one, Zendesk is one that I've heard at work that we use, where basically users can upload issues and tickets and your internal team can kind of handle those and get them resolved to help out those users. But there's tons of different ways that you can kind of set up feedback systems. If you're a small team, you probably just want to tell people to send you an email. That's probably honestly the easiest way going forward, or tell them to join your Discord and talk to you directly there and get help. But if you're more sophisticated, you got a larger team, you got a lot of features, you might want an actual like dedicated feedback service. API keys. So if you're building like a SaaS product where someone has to go and like create API keys, I just want to give a shout out to Unkey. I think it's unkey.dev. Another YouTuber, James Perkins, is kind of working on this full time now, I believe. So I just wanted to give him a little shout out, unkey.dev. Go check them out. If you ever need a product that deals with like creating API keys, he's working on that. So that's pretty cool. It's inspiring to see other people trying to build SaaS products. And then finally for design, again, this is out of my realm, but a lot of people use Figma. We use Figma at work, where you have your designers set up your Figma designs, and your coders and your developers can kind of translate those into front-end implementations. If you can think of any other services that I potentially left off, leave a comment and let me know. But this is basically some of the core things that I can think of. I know it's too small to even see. A lot of stuff, right? But in order to run a SaaS product, a lot of these, I'll say 80% of these things, you might actually need to be able to like run your business. So, all right, that's all I wanted to talk about. I hope you guys learned something new watching this video. For some reason, it just came to my mind, and I just wanted to kind of map this out, just because I want to like make sure that I truly understand all the different niches that occur in building out SaaS products. And if I ever think about building my own SaaS product, maybe I can try to dive into one of these niches and try to put a dent in that market as a one-man team. I highly doubt it, but those are my dreams. So if you enjoyed watching, be sure to give me a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, press the bell icon. And like always, I have a Discord channel you're welcome to join if you want to find a place to hang out and talk to some other developers. Have a good day and happy coding.